To most people, that sound is a primal alarm, a desperate wordless plea. It indicates something has gone dreadfully wrong. To some of us in my business, it's a signal that we're doing something right. What would the Fear film be without a few full-bodied women with full-bodied screams in the audience and on the screen? Of course, there were screams before the advent of talking pictures, like Mary Philbin in Phantom of the Opera, but the recorded sound meant a new dimension in terror. Many fine actresses have made quite a mark on our ears as well as on our eyes. Like Fay Wray 2 generations earlier, the Scream Queen reputation of Jamie Lee Curtis rests on only 4 or 5 films in which Miss Curtis does not do an inordinate amount of screaming at all.
There's no water getting here, but something awful cold did.
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Her effectiveness in John Carpenter's Halloween established an entire category of films. The strong performance of Curtis set the standards for modern scream queens to come. Linnea Quigley was one of the stars of Return of the Living Dead and is now one of the top scream queens in Hollywood.
The phenomena of the scream queens has changed a little bit, because before there were only like a few of them kind of going around, and now there's like a million of them, a million people that say they've done films that are scream queens, so it's kind of like lost a lot of its impact.
When you have a movie that has a very low budget and doesn't have a big publicity budget to do PR with, it helps sometimes because the girls were never getting star salaries, but they were so anxious to promote themselves that you literally had to do is give these girls a set of slides and they would do all the work for you.
Time for the autopsy.
It really is the perfect scream. And in fact, I've gotten a good career now as a dubbing artist, ADR, for other actresses to replace their screams.
Carol Borland, the beautiful real-life protégée of Bela Lugosi, played the Count's daughter Luna in Mark of the Vampire in 1935. Her demure characterization would inspire such American favorites as Vampira, Morticia Adams, and Lily Munster.
Mark of the Vampire, well, I went against his orders, I went against his advice, and he was very right. He said, don't ever do something like this, which is a specific kind of character. And when I told him I was up for the part, he said no, because he said, you're a good actress. I was a staff artist on Columbia Broadcasting System at that time, and playing in many theaters around the Bay. And he said, don't do it, Carol, as he always called me, because you will be marked for life. You will just do that. It happened to me.
We went to see the sneak preview of a horror show.
Susan! Susan, it's me, Russ! What happened? How did you get here?
And then it came to toward me.
What came toward you?
The eye! In the context, it was great. I mean, it was fine. It was poignant when she said, that poor creature, but there's something about his face. The crowd started a low roll. People were banging, screaming, laughing, because it was funny. I mean, something about his face, you bet there was. So my agent said, darling, I think we should leave now.
Clearly, it is often an uphill battle to maintain the proper sense of fear and dread when confronted on the set with something patently absurd.
With only one alligator head, it's hard to make these guys look, they're beginning to turn into alligators and have these snouts. Now, alligators have snouts this big, if you know. They have a little head and big and little eyes and mashugana. I had never seen what they had made for these boys' heads. And I opened the door, and I gotta tell you, they all looked like they had urinals on their head. For some reason, to shape this thing, to make it look like something, it had to be big. And it you know how a urinal is, it's like this, and it has a trough. Well, that's what it looked like, a short cut off urinal.
What have you done with my husband?
He's going to kill me!
Stay there, I'm on my way.
I can't stay.
I got along very well with Beverly Garland. She was and is an extremely good actress, and I was dating her for a while. We had a great rapport, and I just think she's one of the finest actresses I've ever worked with.
I've always played very strong women, always. I'm a very strong woman, and whether or not the woman is strong, she comes over strong because I play her. I mean, I can't help that.
You think you're going to make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first.
As far as I'm concerned, listen, I gotta support myself. Are you kidding? I gotta work. You give me a job, I'll do it, you know?
Are you really ready to stop loving me?
I'll need you even when no emotion exists.
For a few dollars, you can hire a woman who'll fit all your fetishes. She'll match your requirements perfectly. And if you ever get tired of it, you can always run down to the employment agency for another.
If you're emotional and into the scene, you just do it.
You know, I pity him sometimes. He's so alone. The only one of his kind in the world.
Watch out for the girl! Hold your fire!
It was really playing at acting. It was just like a kid, you know, playing with toys. It was really great. I loved it. It wasn't unsettling, it wasn't frightening, it was just a lot of fun.
Peggy Moran was a Universal Pictures contract player in the late 1930s and early 40s. The studio turned out to be an excellent training ground. That is, if you were looking to make a career for yourself as a screen queen.
For me, it was almost working every day. You know, to do 11 pictures in 1 year, I hardly got a chance. I think they handed me another script before I had finished the last one, you know. And it would mean like getting up at 5 in the morning to get to the studio by 6 if I wanted to have some breakfast first, and then makeup, and then on the set at 8 o'clock.
Something new, yet as old as time.
Come on, Johnny.
A date with the devil.
The most dangerous vampire of all time.
No.
The year is 1972. A leap year in horror.
They'd got me ready, got all the scars on and the makeup on, and I was ready, and they buried me up to my neck. And it was getting on for lunchtime. So they said, right, we'll come and shoot the scene after lunch. So there I was, left. It started to rain, so they stuck a tarpaulin over my head, sort of a plastic sheet. And that was that. They went off and had a tea break.
The undisputed queen of screams in the 1940s was Evelyn Ankers. Born in Chile, she was educated at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, which scarcely prepared her for the grotesque co-stars she would have while under contract at Universal Studios. Dracula, the Wolf Man, Frankenstein's monster, the Creeper, the Invisible Man, an ape woman, and a mad ghoul.
She never really liked the picture business. And of course she did Ladies in Retirement in New York, which was a stage play, and that's where she screamed. And that's where she got started with the screaming. They thought she was great as a screamer.
Miss Lewis, I want you to tell me everything you know about your accompanist.
Oh, no, Eric couldn't be mixed up in this. Why, we're engaged.
Suppose he's two people, the man you love and a ghoul.
You wouldn't want to run away with a murderer, would you?
Oh, Larry, you're not. You know you're not.
I killed Bela. I killed Richardson. If I stay here any longer, you can't tell who'll be next.
She enjoyed the work until I started working again.
In adventure films and horror films and westerns and the genre of films that are made for adolescent boys, however old we are, women are kind of in jeopardy or sidekicks or not equal players.
When Curse of Frankenstein began a new cycle of Gothic films in 1957, Hazel Court began her association with Technicolor terror.
Now, you cannot possibly conceive what dreadful thing he's planning to do.
What are you trying to tell me, Paul? That Victor's wicked? Insane?
Like screen sirens Maria Montez and Maureen O'Hara, Hazel's red hair and ivory skin seemed destined for color film.
What on earth is this?
It's a container for a narrow poison made by the natives of South America.
Curare.
That was very scary to me. There we were down, I don't know how many feet under the ground, and this face, and the caves dripping, and there's no air. That was scary.
You haven't brought Steve Parker back to life. This is something from hell.
Not surprisingly, auburn-haired Barbara Shelley had been a photographic model. Prior to that, she earned her wings doing musicals in repertory theatre.
Doctor, you'll perform an autopsy.
On a body that's turned to stone?
Barbara and Peter were both great devotees of Gilbert and Sullivan. Between takes, they would sing these very complex lyrics, racing each other through the songs to see who could sing them faster. Of course, to someone who didn't know Gilbert and Sullivan, it must have sounded like gibberish. Between setups on these pictures at Bray Studios, Barbara and I used to listen to recordings of Caruso singing opera, analyzing them, sometimes singing along. She had a bass baritone voice, quite rare in a woman. I'd like to think it had something to do with her marvelous scream.
Where's Charles?
You don't need Charles.
The grande dame of screams remains Fay Wray. though Miss Ray spent an entire day in a studio screaming her lungs out. The most horrific shrieks were supplied by actress Julie Hayden. Sound editors dropped the screams over the special effects and used them as punctuation in other RKO films over the next 20 years. The 25-year-old Fay Wray had made 30 pictures before Kong, but the film's success fixed her name and scream in the public imagination. The studio amortized the cost of the Kong jungle set by shooting a second picture, also starring Fay Wray and Robert Armstrong, The Hounds of Zaroff, also called The Most Dangerous Game, based on the Richard Connell short story. A streak of perverse sexuality ran through the script, with Fay Wray as the object of unwanted attention from villainous Leslie Banks. The same year, she co-starred with Lionel Atwill 3 times, first in a pair of early colour thrillers directed by Michael Curtiz at Warner Brothers.
Are you worried about your father?
Yes, I am. Terribly.
I wouldn't be. He's very tired. He's working under a terrific strain. He's bound to show it.
I know. But last night, after everyone went to bed, I saw my father bending over Rowett's body.
And in the science fiction horror mystery, The Vampire Bat.
You're the one. What mad thing are you doing?
Mad? Is one who has solved the secret of life to be considered mad? Life, created in the laboratory. No mere crystalline growth, but tissue. Living, growing tissue. Life that moves, pulsates, and demands food for its continued growth. You shudder in horror. So did I the first time. But what are a few lives we weighed in the balance against the achievement of biological science? Think of it. I have lifted the veil. I have created life. Wrested the secret of life from life. Now do you understand? For the lives of those who have gone before, I have created life.
I'll tell Carl.
You may. For tonight, Carl's name will be added to yours. And all of those whom this achievement will immortalize.
The dual characters of Mariah in Fritz Lang's Metropolis show the female villain as typified in fantasy films. Even though the script was written by a woman, Thea von Harbu, the characters represented dual stereotypes, a Madonna-whore dichotomy. As the real Mariah, Brigitta Helm was good-hearted but a bit of a simp. Robot duplicate, she was splendidly lascivious. Even so, she was a tool of the main villain, not the primary menace.
it's more interesting to play a bad girl because I don't really do that in real life. So it's like more of a challenge to me. It's pretty easy to kind of play the nice girl type thing and kind of boring.
I learned that you can actually get something done in 5 days if you know your lines, if you're there on time.
Obviously, there's more to a successful screen career than a good pair of lungs. These ladies are proof of that. Talented, beautiful, intelligent, and resourceful. Clearly, the heroines of these films are adapted to the times.
My first on-screen scream had to be Slumber Party Massacre. And in fact, that was the first major role I ever had in a film. It was a Roger Corman movie back in '82, I believe. Directed by a woman, Amy Jones, written by Rita Mae Brown, and starring a bevy of buxom, beautiful babes.
The party begins at 8 o'clock. It's a slumber party for old time's sake.
Love it too. Do you think I'm getting better?
I was victim number 2 out of about 17. They took me out in the parking lot with a tape recorder, and they had me scream over and over because my scream had to describe my death. They didn't want to show it on camera. It has often been lifted and used in other things.
No matter how strong or bright the character, they will undoubtedly reach a point in the story when the terror becomes too great, the menace too close, too overwhelming. At that moment, there is no more natural reaction than, isn't that lovely?